This is Next Radio 2017 with Broadcast Bionics.
So today I'm going to talk about how great design generates clicks and how your audio could potentially get more clicks in the online space. When I say design, I mean images that go with your podcast, your programs, your clips, as opposed to kind of like website design and design architecture. So I work as a senior content producer in BBC Radio Music, and I work in a team called the Speech and Classical Music Hub. We look after digital content around Radio 4, Radio 3, Radio 4 Extra, a bit of BBC Proms, radio drama and radio comedy. But before I was doing that, a long time before I was doing that, I spent quite a lot of time at university looking at pictures when I did my History of Art degree. So basically I like looking at pictures. And I'm not alone. As humans, we're visual creatures, and our brains can process images extremely quickly. This slide shows that it takes 0.013 seconds, that's 13 milliseconds, for the brain to process an image the eye has seen. So for me, this is really important because it says that even before we've read a title, even before we've read a program description, on a subliminal level, we've already made a decision about what the content is about. And this is something that Netflix pay a lot of attention to as well. They've got a blog where they talk about a lot of the testing that they do. And on it, I picked out these couple of stats. One of them says that 82% of their members focus on an image whilst browsing, and they don't spend very long looking at each individual program. They're spending about 1.8 seconds. So we've got a very short amount of time to capture people's attention in these spaces. And the kind of testing that Netflix have done, they've done testing around kind of character images, what characters look best, what facial expressions the characters have got, where they sit in the image, where they sit against the title. And I think the fact that a successful company like Netflix are putting this amount of energy into their images, for me, says that it's important. So I'm just going to run you through a few bits of work and a few insights that our team has done. And the first example I'm going to use is the Untold. So the Untold is a program we worked on. It's a documentary series that goes on Radio 4. And these two images here, the first image, the image with the girl with the budgie on her shoulder drinking a cup of tea, that is the brand image we created with the production team to represent the program. However, when it came to the podcast image, we decided to go for a different image, and that's the one you can see where the title is clearer. And we think basically that one image doesn't necessarily always fit all. Sometimes you need two images. And we wanted to use a different image in the podcast space because we kind of felt that maybe the brand image wouldn't jump out as much. And I think that in the podcast space, a thumbnail image is possibly the single most important thing you can do to get your content noticed. And this image has performed quite well when we've asked kind of for feedback from audiences, what they think about it. And I think when you're talking about podcast spaces, the thumbnail is really important, and a lot of people are looking on mobile as well. So I think the recent radars at Radio 4 showed us that 44% of our listeners, of our audience who are coming to us in the digital space, were coming through mobile. And so for me, mobile is really important as well. So we kind of wanted an image that stood out in the mobile space as well. And I think when it comes to images in mobile spaces, I think you need stuff that isn't too much detail, it's quite simple, and that is immediately easy to absorb. But it's not all about small-scale mobile images. Also important is the visual clues an image can represent. So I talked to iPlayer about this image that did well for them when they were testing it, and it's for a BBC One series called The Secret Agent. And when I talked to them, they talked about the visual clues that this image offered. So you've got Vicky McClure, and so if we look at it very quickly, you've got Vicky McClure dressed in period dress, so straight away you know it's a period drama. With the kind of brickwork behind it, kind of looks like it's kind of set in an urban environment from the past. And for me, the darkness around the image gives this kind of sense of mystery and drama. And they said that younger audiences are really good at picking up visual clues because they've kind of been surrounded by screens for so much of their lives that they're really adept at it. So that is something that I think we can take away from that and apply to our programs. So for example, what colour does your program represent? Is it what tone does your program represent? What font? Should it be bold? Should it be kind of more stripped back? So I think these are interesting. What visual clues can we bring to our programs, I think, is quite an interesting thing to think about. So I've talked a bit about testing, and so I've talked a bit about testing, and I know Netflix test and iPlayer test. We've started doing a little bit of testing in our team. It's at quite an early stage at the moment, so I can't really share anything of value. But I thought it might be useful to talk about the kind of testing we do. So we've started doing what's called A/B testing. So around images, I'm going to explain it around images. So basically, image A is your control image, and image B is a variation of that image, and you're testing either image A and image B to see which one works the best. And what we've done is we've taken these two images, for example, you can have more than two though, and we've put them in a controlled environment, so in the same position on the Radio 4 homepage for a set amount of time, say like 7 days, and then a developer has written a bit of code, which means that 50% of the audience see image A when they land on the site, and 50% of the audience see image B, and from that we can then ascertain which image has performed best. However, I think that even if your image gets the most clicks, it doesn't necessarily mean it's the best image, in the sense that you might have a target audience you're wanting to appeal to, and perhaps the people coming to your site don't represent that target audience. So it is something we're definitely wanting to explore a bit more. And we think that now that the BBC is behind iPlayer sign-in, a lot of content is now available through sign-in. We're going to be getting better data around our images. And our ambition really is just to get the best image that says the right thing about the programme to the right people. So what can you do if you're a producer and you don't have developers behind you and you don't have Netflix, the money of Netflix? What can you do to really kind of make your work stand out in digital space? For me, I think the one thing that I would do is not leave those kind of decisions until the last minute. So I've been a radio producer myself, and I know how much work it is to get a programme out of the door. And I also know then that if you don't think about images, it can be a bit of a scrabble at the end. So for me, I kind of like, at every step of the way, I try and think about what I kind of look for the visual clues as part of the process. So when I'm reading the script, I think about what images jump out for me. And then that way, I think, I don't know, I think it really helps, basically, making visual imagery part of your whole process. And I think radio is quite a visual medium, so I think once you get into the habit of doing that, it's actually quite straightforward, I think. I think the digital world is making us all kind of curators and art critics. So I think that kind of when you're on your commute, or when you click on something, if you ask yourself why, I think that really kind of helps give a sense of why we choose what we do. So to finish, I'm just going to share the tips. So things to take away are definitely think about mobile view, have a strong thumbnail image, one size doesn't always fit all, and think about visual clues, and make design part of your production process.
Liz, thank you very much.
Thank you.